Hey everyone, Mike Revollo here, joined by the Rapids legend himself, Drew Moor, and we just got out of the press conference with new Colorado Rapids head coach, Chris Armas, and we heard quite a few things that were of note that we heard from Chris, and of course Pork Smith alongside him as well during that press conference. Drew, we're going to talk about, before we get to tactics, before we get to any of the football with Chris, that obviously he's here to try to change maybe the style a little bit with the Colorado Rapids. The big thing he really emphasized was relationships, be it with player to coaching staff in this instance we're going to focus on a little bit, but just with everyone in the club in general. You, from your experience as a player, how vital, how important is it to have a good relationship between the players and the coaching staff?
I think the relationship between the coach and the player is obviously, it's huge. And Chris spoke a lot about how family oriented he is. He grew up in a tight-knit family, and you can tell by the way he talks about his parents, by the way he talks about his wife, by the way he talks about his boys, you know, and being able to relate to your players and understand you know, what they're going through, what they're thinking, how they're feeling off the field is almost just as important as the product that is on the field, right? And I think when you could find a coach that you want to go out there and fight for, and you want to go out there and win games for, and you want to commit to his philosophy and his way of doing things, not just on the game field on Saturday nights, but on Tuesday mornings in trainings and all the way through the week. I think it's so important. And Chris seems to embody personally the way he wants his team to act, behave, and play. He's very expressive, he's very open and honest, he's very energetic, and that's how he says he wants his team to play. And when you can lead a group of soccer players by being yourself and ask them to kind of embody those emotions as well and embody that energy, I think that's a good foundation to build off of, especially with the relationships that you have with the people that you're working with.
And you mentioned it there, it's the foundation. For Chris, that is the foundation of everything that he's going to do, regardless, whatever tactics, whatever sort of formations he wants to play. The relationships is the base of everything before he even talks about that. Now that we've talked about relationships, that being the basis of everything Chris wants to focus on with players, coaches, everyone at the club, let's look at what he wants to do in terms of his style of play. So let's take it back to 2023, latter half, where the Rapids, at one point that they were out of playoff contention, but that didn't mean that players weren't fighting, grinding, trying to earn a spot for 2024 for that season, regardless of who came in as the head coach. And Chris Armas, he made note of those things. He noticed those little tendencies that some players had, made note of some players that he's looking forward to working with Cole Bassett, Moise Bombito, Connor Ronan, amongst others that he did list. So between having those relationships with players that he wants to build and foster, and then just seeing how these players are hungry, young, eager to learn, how does that translate into a team that Chris Armas team? How does that translate into a Chris Armas team? And you have experience playing against Chris Armas when he was a player and when he was a coach as well.
Well, I'll have a little story that I'll save for a minute about Chris Armas when I was about to play against him my rookie year, but he made it very clear that he wants this to be an attacking team. And his first speech before he was asked any questions, he kind of left it off with that. And this is going to be an energetic team, and this is going to be a hard-working team. I saw him for about 5 minutes the other day. We had a quick conversation, and he was speaking with some of the sports science guys, and he said this group's going to work. They were going over the preseason schedule. This team is going to work. They're going to use altitude to their advantage. They're going to be front-footed, and this is the way Chris has played when he played in the league. He's embodied that in the systems that he's coached in, right? He named a group of players in Rafa Navarro, Cole Bassett, Moise Bombito, Connor Ronan, a group of players that are hardworking, energetic, front-footed, and this is kind of maybe a core group of guys that he sees carrying out his philosophy, right? And in my rookie year in 2005, I don't like telling too many stories about myself, but when I was playing for FC Dallas, we were preparing for a match against Chicago Fire, and our head coach's scouting report on their midfielders, who were Chris Armas and Jesse Marsh, were these guys are hunters. These guys are gonna hunt from the first whistle to the last whistle, and they're gonna bring everybody else with them. And that is kind of the philosophy that Chris seems to embody and that he wants to, impart upon his players, especially his leaders, that we're going to be front-footed, we're going to play exciting football, we're going to be energetic, and we're going to make teams suffer. We're going to make it difficult for teams to play here, and we're going to make it difficult for teams to play on the road. And he was very clear about that message, and he's got a good group of players to build off of with that, and I imagine there's going to be some players added to the group that will be able to carry out that philosophy as well.
So that's a little bit that we heard from Chris Armas during his press conference earlier today, where he was introduced as the Colorado Rapids head coach.